4 series remain, 12 games to go. Do the Mariners have one last push for the playoffs in them? We'll answer that and more coming up here on Mailbag Monday. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, September 16th, 2024. This is TonaI Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's show, we'll be opening up the mailbag like we do here every Monday and answer some of your Mariners questions. But before we do that, shout out to our title sponsor today, PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's all lowercase to win $50 instantly when you play $5. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. The link is in the description and you can sign up for a free 7-day trial. So we're going to kick off Mailbag Monday here with a question from Chum the Hammerhead, who wants to know, with the hot stretch recently and the Twins playing the Guardians 7 times and the Houston series coming up, simple yes or no. Playoffs? Question mark.
No.
Really? No.
It's over.
You're not going to be the ray of sunshine we all view you as?
No. The fat lady has sung. It's over. You shot yourself in the foot when you lost 5 of 6 to the Tigers. Like it's over at that point, because not only do you have to make up, 2.5 games over the next 12, it's actually 3.5 because you don't have the tiebreaker against Detroit or Minnesota. So you have to essentially be 4 games better than them over a 12-game stretch. Not going to happen. That's not going to happen. In the Astros, you have to be 5 games better than over a 12-game stretch. Not going to happen. Like that. We have entered miracle territory.
Well, your best hope here is that you pick up 1 game in this Yankees series while the Astros are playing the Padres. You pick up another game when you're playing the Rangers on the Astros again. And then at that point, you're within 2.5 games and you're relying on sweeping them, or at least winning 2 of the 3, picking up another game there, and then hoping that Cleveland takes care of business against them in that final series while you take care of business against Oakland. I still think that's the likeliest path here to making the playoffs, is by winning the AL West. And again, because you actually have an impact on that. You have the potential to pick up 3 games right then and there in that series, but you still need to get within striking distance, and right now you're not. So you got to win this series against the Yankees. You got to probably sweep the Rangers. And then you're going to have to sweep the Astros. Now, if all the while you're doing this, the Twins keep losing and the Tigers have the Royals and the Orioles coming up, so it's possible that they'll lose a few games here. But it's possible that you also have that back way into the playoffs as well with the wild card. But still, the likeliest path here is the division by far.
Yeah. They have 12 games left. It feels like to me, for us to think there's any reasonable shot, they have to win at least 9 of these last 12 games, probably 10. They've won 8 of 11, so they're playing good ball. The offense has been really good. I talked about this on the post-game show on the Patreon on Friday or Saturday, I think. Since Edgar's taken the gig that day, August 23rd, the Mariners are, I believe, 4th in runs, and that's not counting what they did on Sunday when they put up 7. So they're 4th in runs and 4th in WRC plus. And we've talked about runs being such a valuable or such a misleading stat when you're looking to compare offenses, because the Mariners play in a really difficult ballpark. Well, that's still true. And yet they still ranked 4th in runs over the last 3+ weeks. So they've rode that offense to an 8-3 stretch here. They probably need to do it again. And at that point, you're talking about winning 16, 17 of your final 22 and still needing a lot of help from other teams to get in. It's not likely. It is. I would say there is less than a 1% chance that this breaks away, that the Mariners needed to. And it's their own fault. It's their own fault. Like it's very clearly.
Someone doesn't believe in the power of the city connects.
No,
Couldn't
because
be
I don't
me.
believe in witchcraft.
Next question here from Bring Back Our Sonics. Love the name. Absolutely. Bring Back Our Sonics. 2 questions. Can Julio keep up what he did this weekend the entire rest of the season? And 2, will Luis Castillo return before the end of the regular season? 1, absolutely. Julio can do that because he's Julio Rodriguez. And we're seeing some really good things out of him right now. 2, will Luis Castillo return before the end of the season? Probably not. Justin Hollander did leave the door open to the possibility that he could come back at the end of the 15 days, which is still before the end of the season. But I would say that if we're going to see Luis Castillo again this year, it's because the Mariners made the playoffs and he's able to get healthy by, I mean, that might even require them winning a playoff series before he factors into the equation there as well.
Yep. It's a hamstring injury, so those are always pretty fickle. They can kind of go either way. I think if the Mariners really thought that they could get Castillo back and it would matter, they would have just carried him on the 28-man roster and just played a man down. But instead they put him on the IL. Basically, he can't come back until that last series against Oakland. That's if he stays the minimum. So no, he's almost certainly not going to pitch. And if you're eliminated by the time he's eligible to return, there's no need. Yeah, it's a waste. So no, we're not going to see Castillo. Could Julio do what he did? I mean, he had the 6 hits in a row, and then he had a pretty mediocre day yesterday. So, 2 or 3 really good games followed by a bad one. Like, could he do that yeah, sure. I mean, there's only 12 games left. Julio was one of the best hitters we've ever seen for an entire month last year. And he's been very good since pretty much July 1. So yeah, he could certainly do that. But I think to expect him to, 3, 4, 5 hits and over the next 12 games, he's going to hit 8 home runs or something like that. Probably not, but it is
could
good
be
to
fun.
see. It could be, but it's not going to happen. But Julio is swinging the bat great right now, and it's actually fun to watch Julio hit. So at the very least, even though this season is heading towards a disappointing end, it's nice to see Julio really get back on track here late and just, give you some good vibes heading into the off season. And hopefully he can carry over, his July, August, September performance. Hopefully he can carry that into next year and actually have the breakout year a lot of us thought he was going to have this year.
Yeah, it'd be nice if he actually finished on a strong note, because you look at his last 2 seasons or his first 2 seasons, he didn't end those on strong notes, right? He had the big August last year and then had a pretty mediocre September. And then obviously in 2022, didn't have the playoff run that he was hoping for, especially in that last game in game 3. And he just kind of had to hold that for a whole off season. So if he's able to actually end what has been overall pretty disastrous season for him, if he can end that on a high note, I think that would be great for his mentality heading into 2025. All right, so we're going to answer a few more of your questions here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, which, of course, is America's #1 sportsbook. Well, I have something a little different for you today. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, that's LOCKEDON, to download America's #1 sportsbook. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. You can catch all the action between the Mariners and the Yankees tomorrow night on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners. Josh wants to know, if he doesn't decide to retire and he actually wants to resign, would you guys be opposed to bringing Justin Turner back in 2025?
Yeah, he's certainly been pretty good for the last couple of weeks. And, his line drive approach, his contact heavy approach is certainly one that in theory fits T-Mobile Park a little bit better. My question is, where does he play? Like, is he going to be your first baseman next year? Because then you're taking at bats away from Luke Raley. And it's like, do you really want to do that? Raley's been insane since August and just really good overall. Do you want to Do you want him to be the DH? Like, you want a DH who's going to pop maybe 8-9 home runs, and that's if he doesn't lose any more bat speed and anything like that. So like, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but like, we're talking about spending 9, 10, 11 million bucks to bring him back to be a part-time player. No, it doesn't make sense. At that point, I'd rather just go sign Carlos Santana, who's also old, but at least has power still, at least plays good defense at first base still. Like, I just think there's going to be other options. So,
and obviously has a connection with Julio and all that. Right.
Sure. Right. But honestly, again, like, if you're going to go spend money on a first baseman DH, go spend it on a good one, like a really good one. Don't try and be like, oh, well, we're going to spend $7 million at first base. It's like, why don't you go spend 20 at first base?
I can't imagine that 40-year-old Justin Turner though is going to command much on the market.
No,
in
I
terms
mean,
of dollars.
like I said, every player who doesn't have off the field issues has a number where it's like, okay, at that price, that makes sense. But I think the likelihood that number is going to get low enough that when you look at the Mariners roster, you're like, yeah, Justin Turner easily fits here at this number. I just don't think that's going to happen. So
no, he's not playing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. He might be like playing V here, but yeah.
Disrespect to QRSTU.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, so like, sure, if he happens to come back, is it the worst thing in the world? Probably not. I'd have to see what the rest of the roster looks like, but no, you should be aiming a lot higher than Justin Turner. And it feels to me like Turner's probably most likely to retire than he is to play another season. But we'll see. It's obviously it's up to him if he wants to play. I just don't think it's going to be for Seattle.
Yeah, there's just too much regression risk there at that age, right? Like, I was able to overlook the age this season because he was already hitting this season, right? Like we talked about in the episode when they traded for him. It's like, I just need him to be as good as he was yesterday, today, right? But then with, a layoff in between playing time for him, I don't know how that's going to translate from age 39 to age 40. So we'll see. But yeah, if I had to guess, he's probably going to retire. But in the event that he doesn't, I'm mostly out, right? That is the fallback of my fallback of my fallback. Kizamu wants to know if they can all get going at the same time. Is it worth it to keep Robles, Rodriguez, Randy together in the outfield? Feels like they are feeding off each other's energy. You should keep those three guys, absolutely, right? Because moving off of one of those guys, moving off of two of those guys, if you moved off of Robles and Randy, obviously they're not going to move off of Julio. Just creates more work for you. You should add to that group. Or you should be willing to add to that group, because you're not taking away playing time for any of those guys because you have the DH wide open. So yeah, add to the group, but don't take any of those guys out of it. Absolutely. I mean, you're seeing what the ceiling is essentially for all three of those guys when they're all cooking. Like, it's a lot of fun. This team wins games when those guys are cooking. So, I mean, Victor Robles, by the way, Colby, has been, I didn't even know this until this morning. So over the last 30 days, so dating back to August 16th, Victor Robles is the most valuable hitter in all of baseball by WRC plus. More valuable than Aaron Judge, right? Mm-hmm. Guess who's number 2?
Aaron Judge.
Luke Raley.
Yeah.
Guess who's number 3?
Aaron Judge.
Lawrence Butler. But guess who's number 4?
Aaron Judge.
Eugenio Suarez.
Hey.
Guess who's number 5?
I'm done.
Aaron Judge. It was Aaron Judge is number 5. Yeah.
But so yeah, it's obviously you're keeping those 3 guys. There's no reason to move off of them. Again, assuming Randy's checking out in the clubhouse and all that stuff, like he's there and all that stuff, and he's excited to be the blah 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 off the field stuff with Randy that I'm not too concerned about. Does seem to be settling in, and he's hit really well at T-Mobile Park, since joining the Mariners, when that's not something you really want to move on from, right? You want to get guys who can hit at T-Mobile Park, and he's certainly one of them. So, those 3 guys are going to be fine. And then, Luke Raley figures into the mix too as well. Raley right now probably the first baseman, but he could slide to. So yeah, your outfield's in really good shape.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to keep those guys together because, again, you're just creating more work for yourself if you don't. Right. Randy's a really good hitter, and he's proven that he can hit at T-Mobile Park. Why would you pass up on that? It's like one of the few guys that you've actually hit on offensively, it seems. So, like, yeah, don't move off of that. That would be stupid. I know he's making, he's going to make what, $12 million in arbitration this offseason? Doesn't matter. Yeah. Randy is like a $20 million player that you're paying $12 million to. Yeah.
I mean, consider that like Max Kepler is probably going to make 16 to 20 million bucks a year as a free agent this year. And you're not probably never going to pay Randy that much in the next 2 years of arbitration. He's a bargain.
Yeah. But if you want to go out and, pay a guy that can play an outfield spot, but also can DH like Anthony Santander, go for it. Absolutely. And, on the days that Santander plays out in the outfield, Robles can be the DH. Randy can be the DH. Julio can be the DH. Doesn't matter, really. So, and that's also the beauty of having Robles is Robles can play center field for you. So on the days that Julio needs a blow or he just, needs to DH, like, you're more than fine with Victor Robles out in center field.
You even have a third option. Rayleigh, not terrible.
Yeah.
So
Luke Rayleigh, second best hitter in baseball over the last 30 days. There we go.
Since August 1, he has like a 190 WRC plus.
It's been really good. Luke Rayleigh, better than Aaron Judge.
150-ish at home this year. Ballpark, nobody can hit in. Luke Rayleigh, 150-ish WRC plus.
Clearly, you just need to get guys from Tampa Bay.
They got to figure it out.
That's the solution.
Jose Siri breakout is going to be insane next year.
Oh, man.
30 bombs, Gold Glove defense, 190 batting average, sure. But 30 bombs and Gold Glove defense, like Jose Siri to the Mariners.
Right-handed Joey Gallo with significantly better defense. So don't disrespect Joey Gallo's glove.
Dude could play. He's an athlete.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple more questions of yours to answer here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is once again brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You could turn $10 into $1,000. Think Tyreek Hill will get more than 90.5 yards in week 1, or that Caleb Williams will throw for fewer than 236.5 yards in his debut? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Once again, you can catch all the action between the Mariners and the Yankees tomorrow night on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do to find that is search the word Mariners. The Callins It Like It Is podcast, I've been on that podcast, wants to know, does Victor Robles, going on another hot streak, change expectations going forward?
No.
Really? Seeing that he has, like, the league has adjusted to him and he's adjusted back and he's found success again, that doesn't change anything for you?
No, because my problem is that, like, basically he's been the best hitter in baseball or the worst hitter in baseball. And that, like, where is just like the consistent, like, stretch where he's just, a 115 WRC plus guy for a month?
I mean, there probably is that if you, like, set the filters
but
right.
But right now it's just the streakiest hitter in baseball, and the streak is good right now, so we're all feeling great. But no, like, I think the idea that, he's been really good for 8 of the last 11 weeks, give or take, and the other 3 weeks he was terrible. Like, I'm supposed to believe this guy is all of a sudden something he's never been before. No, I'm not going to buy that. If he does anything close to this next year, then yeah, obviously things change. But no, until I see him do it over the course of a full season, no. To me, I'm looking at Robles and I'm going like, yeah, he's probably best suited to be a fourth outfielder, but obviously he's going to get a shot to start next year. He should. He's earned it. But he's probably ultimately a fourth outfielder who is going to play, should get 400, 350, 400 plate appearances. He's going to put up solid numbers. He's going to steal some bags. He'll do some fun things on the bases. He's kind of a weird cat, right? Because he doesn't really fit into what the Mariners have typically brought in, right? He swings at the first pitch a lot. Like he bunts all the time. Like he chokes up. He steps forward way in the box to the point where he's almost out of the box when he makes contact. Like he's kind of a weird dude. It's not a traditional offensive profile. Like for a guy who's hitting like Victor is, you think of like Juan Soto and like Aaron Judge. Like that's the level he's been at for the last few weeks. And those guys don't do anything close to they don't do it anywhere close to how Robles does it, just in terms of style and actual substance. So it's a little difficult for me to say that, because it's not like Robles is hitting the ball incredibly hard every single night. It's he's staying up the middle of the field. He's going gap to gap. He'll pull the ball. He'll hit doubles down the line. Sure. Absolutely. But a lot of it is, infield singles and bunt singles and flipping balls into center field. And, just kind of this, it's just a very almost Ichiro-like a way of hitting where it's just kind of like, I'm like, my only goal is to put the ball in that one spot because I know nobody will be able to get over there in time. And he just does it.
I feel like it's more Gene Segura.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of Gene Segura. I mean, even the stance is a little Gene Segura.
Yeah. I mean, Segura's certainly stockier, but yeah.
He was hitting really well before he got hurt last year. He's had other stretches over the course of his career where he has hit well. I don't think that it's really that far-fetched to think that maybe he's just a late bloomer. And
I mean, he's only 27 years old.
Right. And what he initially was as a prospect, as a higher rated prospect than even Juan Soto in the Nationals farm system, wound up not being who what he's best at.
Robles, to me, I think he's a useful player. I think he's going to be a bargain at the contract the Mariners gave him. And sure, there's a shot that he is more than what I think he is, but it's just such a unique style, and it's just such a different brand of hitting than we've seen that only a few guys have been able to pull this off, and very few of them wear the Mariners uniform. And I'm just sitting here like, cool. I'm happy. I'm excited. Like, he's a fun player. I love watching him play, even with the obsession with bunting, with runners in scoring position, whatever. He's obviously endeared himself to the fan base here and the clubhouse. So yeah, I'm excited for Victor. I'm just not going to play the expectation game that this guy's, that the Mariners have essentially gotten the Josh Donaldson of the outfield, where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's just going to come out of nowhere in his late 20s and be a 5-win player. Like, no, I'm not going there. Although he's basically been a 5-win player since he joined the Mariners.
Last question of the day comes from Reagan. What are some creative trade approaches the front office could take to get a prohibitive or potentially prohibitive contract? Some examples given here: Haniger, Garver, JP, maybe off of the books.
It's not really that many creative ways to do it. Either you take on a bad contract, like the Haniger for Robbie Ray swap. So either you make another trade like that, or you do what they did with Marco Gonzalez and Evan White, and you attach a prospect or a young major leaguer to that grouping to get those contracts off your books. Like, that's pretty much the way you do it, right? It's you either add a player to the expensive contract and just lose the deal outright like that, or you swap the high contract for another high contract. And you just kind of roll the dice and see how it works out. The Mariners did both of those things last offseason. Wouldn't be shocked to see them do one or both of those things again this winter. Unfortunately, they might be in a position where they have to because ownership didn't step up. So, yeah, I don't really know there's any more creative ways to do it than either attaching a prospect or a young major leaguer, or just finding another contract for a player that that team wants to get rid of and saying, hey, we have this outfielder. You guys need outfield help. You have this bullpen contract. We'll take a shot on your bullpen guy and you want to swap contracts. And I think that's pretty much your only avenue.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really it. It's very straightforward. It's essentially, I mean, with Haniger, it would be saw with Kelnick getting Evan White and Marco Gonzalez off of the books, or at least pretty equal to that. Garver not as much, because Garver can at least catch, so there's some value, quote unquote, to that. And it's only $12 million for a year.
Right. And the other thing that the Mariners could do is they could eat some money. They could just say, hey, you don't want to take Haniger at 17 million. Would you take him at 7? And sure, we have to eat $10 million, but we also save $7 million on our payroll. But even doing that, you're probably still attaching a prospect or a player to make the medicine go down. Essentially, that player is a sweetener to make the deal more likely to go through. So it's really it. Either you swap bad contracts, either you add a really valuable piece to a bad contract and just expect nothing in return, or you pay down some of the remaining salary that's owed to the contract you want to move. And that will make the player you give up, in theory, a little bit less painful of a guy to give up. Those are your options.
Mm-hmm. All right, that is going to do it for our show. But before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Now have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.